All right, everybody, let's get started. Let's begin. So let's get, gave you the technical side of what this immersion is all about last time, getting to know our shoulders, be able to move our scapula around, create mobility, create stability where stability is required. And the immersion is called shoulder revelation. And revelation or revelatory power is one of the powers that yogis say the universe has. So consciousness, this energy that is pulsing through all things. Consciousness has the power to reveal, and like all things in at least Tantra Yoga, there is the oppositional energy, and that would be concealment. So all things in nature, all things in life as we know it, all things for which consciousness is pulsing through, which is everything that we know as humans, has both the power to reveal and conceal and then reveal again. And we see this in nature, as trees go. If you see, like in the northeast here of the U.S., as winter comes around, the energy of the tree, which went from like blooming, expanding outward, is now going to get concealed. It's going to come inward. It's going to be, it's going to harness that energy that it has that is now outward and bring it into its trunk to keep it close to its core in order to survive the coldness of the winter. And then when spring comes around, it's going to reveal itself again. All the energy is going to bloom outward into the form of budding trees and beauty again. And this just happens over and over and over again. Everywhere in nature has concealment and revealment. And so the idea of shoulder revelation really comes from this understanding that in our physical body, from my practice personally, and also from the tantric lineage of philosophy, I can speak for myself when I say that everything that I know how to do, I already had within me in my physical body. It wasn't revealed to me yet that I had that capability. In other words, I didn't know that I could retract my scapula before I learned how to retract my scapula. And even when I did learn how to retract my scapula, it took some time until my nervous system and my muscular system could get on board with that action and then perform it. So revelation is like this aha moment, but it feels like it happens in an instant when you have that like, oh, now I get it. It feels like it just happens in a moment, like maybe it was like that one verbal cue that the teacher gave, or that one way in which you got it in a sequence or something. But really, it's a combination of a lot of events leading up to that one aha revelatory moment. In Tantra Yoga, this is called anugraha. Anugraha is that revelatory moment when all things that were previously concealed, or what we were ignorant to, now become revealed and we become aware of. And so that really is the goal of yoga, is to bring, well, first and foremost, is to be acceptant of the ever-flowing dance of concealment and revealment, to not think like we're just mastering it by any means, but actually witnessing that this is part of life, that things conceal themselves, then reveal themselves. This concealment can be feeling completely challenged when trying to create your business, let's say, or when trying to raise a family. There's going to be hardship times where things feel like they're not going your way. They're not, right? And then the revelation happens when things are starting to bloom outward, and the expansion and the growth and the change start to happen, and everything that you worked so hard for that was seemingly so difficult at one time is now opening up and blooming in such a way that it feels delightful. Now, this happens in every adventure, no matter if it's on a hike, if it's in the pursuit of developing a business model or something like this, or if it's in cultivating a family life, or here we have a farm and farm animals and everything. We see it from everything in nature, and we are no exception to nature. We are nature, right? So we see it all around us and within us, that there's always this process of concealment and revealment. And then what we want to do is first embrace that process, recognizing that we can't just live in the revelation all the time. Otherwise, there would be no revelation. There must be, in order to have revelation, there must be concealment. You can't reveal something that wasn't ever concealed. So First, the yogic path is to embrace that this is the process of life. It's part of being human. Second, once we embrace that process, we can then seek things that are concealed, that we are ignorant to, and on purpose reveal them. The way that we do this in the physical body is to seek out our patterns that we are unaware of, or the movements that we don't know how to do, the muscles that are weak, and make the muscles that are weak stronger, make the movement patterns that we are unaware of we want to become aware of them, right? We want to, the actions that we are not, that we don't know how to do, we want to learn how to do them. So we seek out the things, the unknown, we seek out the things that we are ignorant to, body and mind in the case of yoga, and we try to become aware of, okay? We're seeking to become aware of, and not just to be aware of like, oh, I see it now, but also to take action upon that, okay? That is the path of the yogi. And with shoulder revelation, I wanted to be specific that what we're really trying to seek out in this immersion is awareness of our shoulder girdle. And that's not just neurologically, which we would consider aware of, meaning I know the sensation of my shoulder blades. I know what it feels like when they move together, retraction. I know what it feels like when they move apart, protraction. I know these names now, whatever. This is all, well, first of all, sensation, and then intellectual based when we talk about the names of things. But also muscularly, we want to learn how to fire these muscles in such a way that they get strong enough to create these actions, and that can take a lot of time. Awareness might feel like it sometimes, often, that anugraha, that revelation can kind of happen in an instant, like where, oh my gosh, I didn't know I can move my shoulders that way. But with muscular strength, it really does take time to build. So you have to, over the course of time, continuously repeat something in order for the muscles to get on board. And the revelations will happen in like little peaks and valleys, where you think you're like, oh, I know my shoulders now. I guess I really don't know them. Oh, now I really know them. I guess I don't really know them. Oh, now I really, really know, right? It's like this ever-going process of concealment and revelation. And when you're in that revelation, you feel like you're in the know. And then if you're really in the know, you know that that revelation is only temporary and that all things get concealed again. And simply, if we look at it from this perspective, all things get concealed so that they can be revealed in a greater form, in a more meaningful way. So usually the concealment phase is kind of when we're putting the work in, when we're doing putting in the effort, the tapas of the yoga practice. All right, let's see if anyone else jumped in. Seppi is fine, thank you. Hey Lynn from Venezuela, welcome in, nice to have you here. All right, so let's get started today. Today's action, since last time we focused entirely on strengthening the muscles of the serratus anterior, which were the muscles that create protraction of the scapula. The secondary action we did was kind of horizontal adduction, moving the arm line inward or even across to the midline. And that's pectoral muscles in combination with the scapula that is moving around the body in order to accommodate that. And we notice that when you retract your scapula, if you tried to horizontally adduct, you wouldn't really go anywhere. In fact, if I asked you to do that, most of you would start to protract your shoulder blades unknowingly just to get your arms across. But if you really keep your shoulder blades pinned together, you'll realize that you really can't go very far. And that's because those two actions are paired. Now we're gonna do the exact opposite. We're gonna do horizontal abduction in combination with retraction of the scapula. And so what limits movement in horizontal abduction is the muscles of the pectorals, because the pectorals will horizontally adduct. I hope you follow that. So whatever creates this action is what makes it hard to create this action, because now these muscles, the tension of these muscles are stretching while the strength of the rhomboids, the muscles between the scapula, are engaging, and also the rear deltoids here are also engaging. Okay, so we're gonna just try to move our scapula towards each other today. We're gonna try to open up the collarbones here, widening the front of the chest. For some of you, this might be fairly easy. For others, this might be very challenging, very difficult. It might be, you might have a deep stretch in the pectoral muscles. It might be a bit uncomfortable at certain times. And for the most part, what I've noticed when traveling around the world and teaching yoga is that the majority of humans have lost touch with the muscles that retract the scapula, the muscles that move your shoulder blades toward one another. And we can only attribute that to the fact that many of us aren't pulling these days, like unless you're like doing a lot of rowing or tug of war, or maybe you do some like rock climbing or something like that. Pulling is kind of something that we just don't often do in life. Everything is kind of in a push fashion. You know, you drive your car with your arms out in front. That's more of a push energy. Even, you know, when your arms are in front, when you're eating, you're still in like the push direction. Even if you're not pushing, your arms are in the push direction. And we don't spend much time with our arms back here or like this, right? It's very rare. And so we're just gonna do this class with everything to the best of our ability, with widening the front body and strengthening the back body, so bringing the shoulder blades together. Very similar experience to last time, of course, just in the opposite realm. Hello, Afa, nice to see you. Nice to have you in. Let's get started, everybody. And please come to all fours, hands and knees. All right. This camera's a little bit off, I think. Off center, so let me just grab that. Is that better? Yeah, more or less. That should be good. Okay. So since we know what protraction is, the shoulder blades apart from one another, which is what we did last time, the opposite action is retraction, when the scapula move toward each other, okay? Now, because when you're on all fours like this or in plank, the natural action would be to protract, to push, it tends to be fairly hard to actually let go of that push to move the shoulder blades all the way together. So I'd like you to try to feel the two bones of your scapula, your shoulder blades, try to get them to touch one another. Now it's gonna take a little bit of sinking in the chest, more of a back bend for many of you, in order to get them together. It's gonna be a relaxing. A lot of you are gonna start to bend your elbows, and that would be a natural movement of pulling, so it makes sense. But try to keep your elbows, you don't have to be jammed straight, but relatively straight, so that you're not confusing. In other words, you can confuse bending the elbows with actually moving your shoulder blades together. We don't wanna do that. We wanna be aware of what's happening in the shoulder blades, okay? So now protract the scapula, move them apart. Retract, move them together. You can do this with the breath. Inhale. Inhale. One more. Now keep the retraction and just lift the sit bones up. Pull the heart through. Child's pose as you exhale. Now, widen your hands off your mat. Make them further apart, away from, off the two sides of the mat. Bend your elbows and see if here you can first let your elbows touch the ground. If your arms are kind of like goalposts or cacti, cactuses, you're going to keep your elbows on the ground for a moment. This would be more like protraction. But then you're going to try to pull your shoulder blades together. Your elbows will have to lift up. This is called retraction of the scapula. Your hands can be on the ground for now. Okay, just try to move your shoulder blades together. And then relax elbows back down. You're going to feel your shoulder blades move apart, more like protraction. Let's do 3 of those. Inhale, retract. Shoulder blades together. Exhale, protract. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Bring the hands back to the mat. Come forward to all fours, hands and knees. Arch the back. Tuck the toes, downward facing dog, hips up and back. Hey Sabui, welcome in. Feel free to pedal out your legs, bend the knees.
Come forward to plank on the in-breath. Exhale, lower the knees down, child's pose.
Try to keep your shoulder blades lifting or armpits lifting.
Come forward to all fours, arch the back.
Exhale, down dog.
2 more, inhale. Exhale, child's. All fours, inhale.
Down dog, exhale.
1 more. Exhale, child's. Inhale, all fours.
Exhale, down dog.
Right leg to the sky, inhale. Please bend your knee, open up your hip as you exhale. Now on your left shoulder, just for reference here, try to lift the armpit up and retract your scapula, just so you can feel what that's like, okay? Because it tends to be the opposite. Not that it's right or wrong, just try to lift your left armpit up away from the ground, retracting your left shoulder blade. Straighten the right leg, inhale. Step right foot forward. Okay, inhale, round the back. Okay, get a little lighter away from the ground. And we're gonna do kind of like a rowing action here. On the inhale, pull your shoulder blades together, pull your elbows back, shoulder blades touch each other. Exhale, reach towards the ground, barely touching. You can protract the shoulder blades, move them apart. Inhale, retract. Exhale, protract. 1 more. Step to plank pose on the inhale. Please lower the knees. This time bend the elbows all the way down. In this position here, let's see if we can move the shoulder blades towards each other. So lift the heads of the shoulders up away from the ground and try to pin your scapula together. Now lift the heart up, just using your back muscles. And then exhale back down. Keep the shoulder blades together. Inhale, lift the heart up. Now lift the hands up. Exhale back down. Keep the shoulder blades moving together. Inhale, lift the heart up. Lift the hands up and the feet up. Exhale back down. Come to all fours, hands and knees. Lift the tailbone into downward facing dog. Right leg to the sky. Oops, sorry. Right foot back down to the ground. My fault. Left leg to the sky. Bend the knee, open up the hip. Now your right armpit will tend to drop towards the ground. That's normal because you're twisting. Just see if you can pull your right armpit up away from the ground, moving the right shoulder blade towards the spine in this case, retracting it. And that action is probably pretty difficult and you're probably not sure if you're doing it or not, and that's quite normal. After some time you'll learn how to do it once you really understand how to retract your scapula. Straighten the leg on the inhale. Step forward. High up on the fingertips. Round the upper back by pushing down through your front foot until your fingers get light. You see my upper back is rounded so I'm not collapsed on my thigh. This is going to force the left buttocks to activate as well. Together 3 times we're going to do a little pulling action. Inhale, pull the shoulder blades together, elbows towards each other as well. Exhale, let the shoulder blades move away from the spine. 2 more. Shoulder blades towards the spine. One more. Hands to the ground, step to plank on the inhale. Knees lower down. Now, we're going to learn how to properly move the shoulder blades when moving to chaturanga. So from plank pose, you should be fully protracted.
At the end of your chaturanga, you should be fully retracted. So along the path, you're allowing the shoulder blades to move toward each other. That what most people try, they either keep the shoulder blades kind of punching forward, or they've learned to kind of like retract and then bend the elbows. Neither of those are biomechanically correct. So all you need to do is start with protraction, and as you bend the elbows, allow the shoulder blades to naturally move toward each other. So when you're at this point, all the way down here, your shoulder blades are together, okay? Inhale, lift the heart up, lift the feet up, and if you can, lift the hands up with the shoulder blades together. Okay, and release. Let's do 2 more in that way. Shoulder blades together. Inhale, heart, hands, and feet. Exhale. 1 more. Exhale. All fours, hands and knees. Push to protract.
Exhale, down dog. Let's take the right leg to the sky now. Step right foot forward. Place the back knee down. Let's come up Anjaneyasana with cactus arms.
So you come on up and pull the front of your chest open. Bring the arms as far back behind you as you can, okay? And the idea here is let's just bring the elbows in front like we're gonna do protraction and eagle arms, and then do the exact opposite, move the shoulder blades together. Then press your heart forward, and that will help to emphasize the retraction of the scapula. Let's take a full breath in, full breath out. 2 more, keep pulling the shoulder blades together. Last one, inhale. Okay, and then release. Now, to go to plank pose, we protract, we push the shoulder blades apart. Now, as you lower, let the shoulder blades come toward each other. 3-part cobra, you'll take your fingertips, hands wide, like me here. Step 1 is to inhale, lift the front body up. Feet can be wide as well. Step 2 is to actually let the ribs and chest melt in front, so the shoulders are back this way. You also see my shoulders go up towards my ears as they go back to allow for the proper range of motion. I inflate my chest and move it forward, press it forward in order to do the 3rd part, which is to lift and lengthen the belly up, chest up, and release. Most people push really hard in this with their arms like this, which is why you are on your fingertips, okay? Because this is a lot easier to do a pushing action. It's totally possible to do a pulling action. It's just harder when your hands are full palmed. It's very easy to kind of push. When you're on your fingertips, it forces you to not use your hands as much and not use your arms. In fact, you're not trying to use your arms here. This is really just kind of propping you up, and you're pressing your chest forward, your shoulders back, and you're actually pulling your way through your shoulders. You're pulling your chest through, okay? And then come back down. Let's come to all fours, hands and knees by pushing.
Exhale, downward facing dog. Left leg to the sky. Exhale, step. The back knee is going to come down for this one. And let's come up to cactus arms. Just to have a strong reference of the opposite, you bring your arms, elbows together, protract your scapula, move them away from one another, and then peel open the heart center by bringing the elbows and the hands back. And at the same time, press your midsection, your low ribs forward. Okay, just like cobra. Pulling the scapula together, pressing the chest in front. Let's do 3 breaths. Keep the shoulder blades pulling together. Those are your rhomboid muscles that pull the shoulder blades together. And it's fighting the tension of your pectoral muscles that are what would do the opposite. 1 more breath. And release, hands to the ground. We go into a push action. Separate the shoulder blades to come to plank. And as you lower, as you bend the elbows, the shoulder blades come toward one another. Take the hands wide, fingertips. Inhale, 3-part. Lift up. Melt, midsection, rib cage forward, heart forward, shoulders back.
Pull the chest forward towards the front of the mat. Pull your way forward. And then release. All fours, hands and knees. Inhale. Lead with your tailbone up, downward facing dog.
Full breath in. Full breath out. 2 more. Walk forward to the front of the mat. Bow forward. Interlace the hands behind the back. We sort of started going over this last time. You're going to allow the shoulders to fall to the ears first. Then once they are towards the ears, now you'll have more ability to retract your scapula. So move your shoulder blades together by trying to pin your elbows toward one another. Okay, while you're doing that, now the challenge will be to try to straighten your arms back behind you. This will, of course, kind of start to stretch all the muscles that oppose the action. So that'll stretch your pectorals, it'll help stretch your serratus to a degree, anterior that is. And of course your front deltoids, the muscles of the shoulders in the front. Okay, hands to the hips. Inhale, arch the back. Rise all the way up to stand.
Okay, take a moment, breathe in and out. Bend the knees, chair pose. Exhale, bow forward, Uttanasana.
Halfway lift, inhale.
Left foot back, exhale. Come up, high lunge, inhale, rise up. Exhale, cactus arms, bend the elbows, pull your shoulder blades together. I usually make a fist like I'm pulling, doing a pull-up. Inhale, reach up. Shoulders touch the ears. Exhale, pull down, elbows bend, shoulder blades towards each other. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, pull the elbows back, pull the shoulder blades together. Inhale, one more. No, 2 more, sorry. Exhale, pin the scapula together. Now 1 more. Shoulder blades together. Now sweep the arms and forward and up. Warrior 2. Continue with the arms. Inhale, bring them this way to protract. Exhale, open it up. Retract the scapula, move them together. Heart wide open. 2 more, inhale. Shoulder blades together. Reverse warrior, inhale. Exhale, hands to the ground. Pivot the back heel up. Inhale to plank pose, protraction to start. As you lower, bend the elbows, shoulder blades come together. Slide the hands and feet wide. 3-part, inhale, lift. Exhale, melt, shoulder blades come together, heart forward. Pull the heart forward on the inhale, pull your chest through. Exhale, release. All fours, inhale. Push shoulder blades apart. Exhale, downward facing dog.
Let's go right leg to the sky again, inhale.
Step right foot outside of right hand, exhale. Left hand to the left, right hand on the thigh. This left shoulder will tend to move forward, so you can just try to move it back, okay? Bend the back knee and reach for a thigh stretch. How do you get the thigh stretch? Well, first of all, you might need a strap around your foot. But if you watch my right shoulder, you're gonna see the right shoulder here pulls back, shoulder blade moves to the spine in order to get the maximum range of motion to grab the foot. The left shoulder will tend to punch forward again, so just move it back as well. So both shoulders are towards the spine, retracting the scapula. Can be really difficult to do this pose. So again, I suggest maybe grabbing a strap that wraps around your foot so you have a little more range there to grab for the thigh stretch. And regardless of how flexible your thighs are, your shoulders can move independently, and most people tend to punch them forward in this position. So see if you can move them together and move your heart forward instead. Okay, let's do a few more breaths here. I'm gonna add one more action. Wherever your foot is, keep it there, but press the foot into your hand so your hand resists, and that will activate your quads on the left side. Okay, so you'll feel your left quadriceps activate as your foot kicks back into your hand, but press the chest forward. One more breath. All right, release the thigh stretch. Lift the hips. You're going to heel toe the right foot forward or into the center line and straighten through both legs. So inhale as you straighten through both legs, look forward. Optionally flex the front foot and exhale to bow.
Enjoy a full breath in. Full breath out. 2 more. One more breath. On this inhale, bend the front knee, step forward.
Exhale, bow forward.
Bend the knees, chair pose.
Exhale, stand up, hands to heart. Inhale, chair pose, arch the low back like I have here, heart lifted. Exhale, bow forward, Uttanasana, forward fold.
Half lift, inhale. Right foot steps back. Coming up, high lunge, inhale.
This time you're gonna come into a pulling position, like you have like a pulley that you're pulling with your arms, and shoulder blades come together, heart is open, okay, just like this. You can grab for fists like when you're pulling back like this. Inhale, reach forward, shoulder blades can protract, grab the imaginary pulley system and pull back. Shoulder blades together. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Two more. Reach up to the sky, high lunge. And open up, warrior two. Take cactus arms, bend the elbows. Inhale, separate your shoulder blades, move them apart from each other, elbows together in the front. Exhale, peel open the heart, shoulder blades together. Two more. Reverse warrior. Hands to the ground. Pivot the back hip closed. Inhale to plank, protraction. As you bend the elbows, shoulder blades come together on the way down. 3-part cobra. Inhale, lift. Exhale, melt. Shoulder blades together. Heart forward. Stretch the belly and heart forward and up. Exhale, release. All fours, hands and knees. Tailbone up, downward facing dog.
Let's do one enjoyable breath in here. One breath out. Left leg to the sky, inhale. Step outside of your left hand. Back knee comes down, right hand over to the right.
And we go for a thigh stretch here. So you bend your back knee, left hand grabs the foot, and again, the left shoulder peels open. So you got to really open up the pectoral muscles there by strengthening the rhomboids. So from here, once I grab the foot, you see my left shoulder is going to draw back. In order to do that, I kind of roll it over my chest, right? So I don't just kind of pull it back and I go up and over. Now the right shoulder will tend to punch forward to do this. You'll also move that back and then press your chest forward. With your thigh stretch, I would invite you to start to learn how to activate the muscles of your quads while they are stretching. To do that, you press your foot back into your hand. Secondary action. Focus on the shoulders first. And if you can get your shoulder blades to retract, great. Then you can add on pressing the foot into the hand. Okay, and release your thigh stretch. Again, we're going to heel toe the front foot towards the center. On the inhale, straighten both legs, look forward. Exhale, optionally, flex the foot and bow forward.
3 breaths here. Okay, bend the front knee. Inhale, step forward, half lift. Exhale, bow. Please interlace the hands behind the back, non-dominant grip. So whatever pinky is normally on the outside, switch it up. Let's let the shoulders fall to the ears first. Then move them together. Retract your scapula and reach the hands back behind you to open up the pectoral muscles, the deltoid muscles, the biceps even will stretch there. All right, hands to the hips, arch the back, rise up to stand.
Tadasana. Close the eyes for a moment, breathe. Bend your knees, place your hands on your thighs. Let's do a nice solid chair pose. Feet hip width apart, move your knees back, hips back. Push your heels isometrically apart just to help with the arch of the low back. Lift the chest and pick up your ribs and belly so you have a nice lift in the front body. Pull your shoulder heads back, come into cactus shape. Elbows behind your chest, shoulders back behind your chest, shoulder blades together. Rhomboids are engaged. Let's take a full breath in and out. 2 more breaths. 1 more breath. As you exhale, bow forward, Uttanasana, forward fold.
Halfway lift on the inhale, arch the back, prepare. Optionally, you can step or hop back, whatever you choose, Chaturanga. Inhale, 3-part cobra, lift the front body.
Exhale, melt shoulder blades together, heart forward. I gotta get my dog, sorry. Inhale, lift the front body up, 3-part, 3rd part, I should say. Exhale, release.
Come to all fours on the inhale.
Exhale, downward facing dog.
Please take the right leg to the sky on the inhale. Step right foot forward.
Inhale, high lunge, rise all the way up. Exhale, open up to warrior 2. Inhale to reverse warrior. Exhale, hands to the ground.
Plank pose on the inhale. Chaturanga, exhale. 3-part cobra. Inhale, lift the front body up. Hey, bud.
Exhale, soften. Hi, sweet boy. Inhale, stretch the belly long. Exhale, all the way back down.
Inhale to all fours, hands and knees. Exhale, downward facing dog. Left side up to the sky, inhale. Step forward. Rise, high lunge. Warrior two. Inhale, reverse. Exhale, hands to the ground. Plank pose, inhale. Jet through down dog. Three part. Inhale, lift the front body. Melt. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, release. All fours, inhale. All right, pause right on all fours and watch me for a moment. We're gonna do something a little challenging. And it might help to use blocks, but I'll just explain it first. So watch me. We'll do, let's say, down dog. It's called shoulder flossing and down dog. So what you first want to do is make sure your shoulders are up to the ears. I'll explain that on another day, okay? But you want to make sure you're pushing. So hips up and back. Then you're going to tent your left fingers and bend your left elbow like this. And see if you can, just see if you can manipulate the scapula. You see how my left shoulder blade, I can do circles where I get the shoulder blade to retract. This tends to be very hard for people to manipulate the scapula like that. Okay, so you're trying to, in essence, just get the scapula to retract. So let's try that on the left side. Of course, you're doing circles with it. So come to down dog. We'll start with the right hand planted strong. Move your hips up and back and really push your shoulders towards the ears so that we're not putting them at risk. Some of you might find it easier to put your both hands on blocks. It'll just put more weight in your feet, okay? Less weight in the hands. Then tend to your left fingertips. You can even bring the left hand out to the side more. I'll show it on blocks just in case you're curious. So you can bring your left hand and then start your left elbow is going to be bent. And you're just going to start through trying to floss the left shoulder through all the different available movements. Okay, this is to help you gain awareness and also control of the scapula, the shoulder blade, as it moves around what's called the scapulo-costal joint, which is just where your scapula meets your costals, ribs, that is. Okay, and then you can take a moment if you need for a break. I'll show you the other side, just in case you pick up something new. Yep, that's a little bit funky, hold on. It's finding that challenging to move a little bit, but you get the idea. Interestingly enough, my right is feeling a little disconnected from its normal ability to move. I'll take note of that, figure that out for today. All things that are revealed are also concealed again. That's part of the practice. What you thought you knew yesterday, you may not know today. Okay, so after you've done the shoulder flossing on both sides, let's take a momentary break from standing postures and come to stand up, please. A lot of cracking. That would be somewhat normal. There's lots of studies on cracking of the joints and everything, but more likely, or most likely, that cracking is you kind of pushing through all the different built up fascial, what's a good way of saying this? Clusters, I guess is a decent word. So all your muscles are encased in this like fascia, kind of like a real thin layer of fibrous tissue that has like almost like
a weave to it with directionality. And sometimes what happens when we don't move in our full range of motion, this fascia starts to build up and bunch up in certain areas and become more hardened in certain areas and more perhaps we can say like thinned out in other areas. And then when you start to finally move in your full range of motion again, you might start breaking up those hardened bits of fascia. And when you do that, you're going to hear clicking and you might feel like rigidness in certain areas. And kind of one of the goals would be to improve the health of the fascia by getting it to glide more properly so that you have like muscles can move more properly against one another on surfaces, but also that this fascia is not so bunched up and uneven and we can regain its proper relationship to the rest of the system. Okay, so let's take our right hand to the wall, and you can, if you want to exaggerate this, you can turn your palm so that your thumb faces straight up, and you can take your right shoulder up and back and then move or walk in front of the right hand. Now you want to keep the right shoulder, it's going to tend to punch forward this whole time. The reason for that is because the pectoral muscles attach to this shoulder here, the head of the shoulder. And the more you stretch the pectorals, one of two things are going to happen. Either the muscle will lengthen or it'll find a way to stay short, meaning it will pull the attachment, the two attachment points closer to one another. So obviously you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overstretch, but you're going to do your best to keep your shoulder back and lengthen the pectoral muscles here. Okay, then you can, if you want to increase it, or if your body's okay with increasing it, you can turn your left foot away so that your chest, the attachment point here of your pectorals, moves away from this attachment point. So the whole pectoral line gets longer. And then as you notice, you're going to feel that your right shoulder will punch forward more. You just keep trying to push it back. And then like I said in the quads, where you can activate the muscles, maybe you back off for a moment, okay? Like in the quads, when you stretch your quads, you can also activate the quads by kicking your foot back in your hand. Here, you can try to move the wall this way in order to activate your pectorals. So you can try to do what would be horizontal adduction, even though your arm is completely horizontally abducted, okay? So try not to send the head of the shoulder forward, but try to move the paint on your wall forward, and that will activate your pectoral muscles while they are lengthened here. That's a really great way to do what's called facilitated stretching. Activating a muscle that is lengthened is called facilitated stretching. We have these Golgi tendon organs that receive the amount of stretch that is happening or tension that is happening in the muscle, and then tell the brain what's going on there. And then when the brain receives signals that there's a lot of tension on this muscle, it'll tell the muscle to release, to relax. How do you increase tension on a muscle so that this happens? You put it into a lengthened position and then you engage the muscle. Lengthening a muscle increases tension. Engaging a muscle increases tension. If you engage and lengthen, you've increased a lot of tension. The brain will tell that muscle to release its tension and you'll get greater range of motion. Okay, come on out. Now there are dangers to that. So I do want to warn you that you don't want to be like just at your end range of your flexibility and then trying to activate as hard as you can. You'll probably pull the muscles away from the bone, resulting in some sort of tendinitis of sorts. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You want to go more towards like your 70% stretch range and then engage just about like 15 to 20%. Okay, so go shoulder up and back and keep the shoulder back by retracting your scapula. So you can see here probably from this angle that my shoulder blade is trying to move to the spine. I think you can see that at least. And then move your chest away from that. You can either do that by starting to walk forward. You could also do it by turning away from the wall. Roll your shoulder back and down a little bit too is fine. And then again, one thing I'm doing here, because the forearm muscles are also stretching, I feel that, is I'm engaging my forearms by gripping my fingers into the wall and then activating the pectorals and the front deltoids by trying to push the paint on the wall forward, okay? Like almost like I'm trying to get out of this pose. that should start to activate the pectoral muscles. Now you may not feel like you're fully active or anything, but more like a warming up of the muscle by engaging it. That's a really nice, like a toning, as they say. A toning would be just a percentage of engagement of the muscle rather than a, you know, a full activation of it where you're trying to shorten it all the way. Because we are isometric, we are not moving, okay? Trying not to create movement while we engage the muscle. And if you continue to hold it with the activation, eventually you start to feel like that stretch sensation kind of goes away eventually. Okay, and then come on out of that. And if you need to, you can do the opposite. Okay, but you're probably going to feel like, oh wow, my shoulders are pretty darn open in the front here now. Okay. While we're standing, let's come to the top of the yoga mat. And we're going to do a simple thigh stretch, taking the left foot, bringing it towards the outer hip here. And you could put your hand on a wall while you're doing this if you'd like for balance. But you're just simply going to do a thigh stretch by bringing the foot close to the outer hip any degree that you can. Then I'd like you to increase the back bend here. So press your rib cage forward. And you'll notice my left shoulder, you see it's not kind of like punching forward like this. I've rolled it back. So that there's a lot of length here in the pectorals, and I'm bowing the spine forward to the front of the mat. If you need to, it's a nice thing to do to bend your standing knee as well. But press your ribs forward like proud lioness or lion, heart open. Okay, and then release. Second thigh stretch on the other side. Reach for the foot. Track the foot close to your outer buttocks. Press your ribs forward. Roll your right shoulder back, left shoulder back. You see in my left shoulder as well, both of these shoulders are pulling back into retraction of the scapula. All right, release your thigh stretch on the right side and on the left side. Let's see, do we have any questions here? Can I slightly micro bend here against the wall? Emma, yes. I assume you're talking about the elbow. Yes, you can micro bend the elbow. And actually, I was going to mention this. You could not only micro bend the elbow, but you can actually try to engage the bicep muscle, like by trying to not just like softly bend it, but actually trying to actively bend it without bending it. Sabui, I know you have hyperextension as well. What did you say here? I found it easier to bend my elbows as my palms and inner forearms and wrist were in greater stretch than the pectorals here. All right, cool. Cool. Good to know. Thank you everybody for your exploration. I appreciate that and sharing that as well. Okay, so, and you could take out, if you wanted to in this case, but I don't necessarily suggest, you could take out that fascial line altogether by bending the elbow if you just wanted to stretch the pectorals. I like to stretch the whole fascial sheath a lot of the times, meaning your muscles are encased in fascia all the way through. So if you bend the elbow completely, you'll kind of move that fascia this way, like I always think of as a kid, we had these Chinese handcuffs. When you try to pull it apart, your fingers slipped in these little things, and they were called Chinese handcuffs. I don't know what they're called these days, but maybe they're still the same. Where you try to pull it apart and you'd get stuck, but if you bunched it together, it would loosen up enough that you would be able to pull the feet apart. Now you can do that on purpose by bunching the fascia up this way. You'll get greater range of motion this way. This happens a lot when people lack hamstring length. They bunch it up by bending the knees, and then it gives them more range of motion that way. I like, a lot of the times, to stretch the whole fascial sheath if possible so that you're not necessarily messing too much with the bunch, but sometimes it becomes too much. So what you could do is you could take your elbow on the wall like this, and you can on purpose bunch the fascial sheath up towards the pectorals, give you like more elasticity or more space to then turn away. And to me, this is a lot easier because you're not going to get that stretch through the bicep and through the forearms, but for many of you, that's going to really help get into your pectorals. So these are great tools to take on. Can you show the hand move during the quad stretch? Yes, okay, that's a good question too. So maybe I can get a nice closer up version here so you can see it, okay? So during the quad stretch, when I grab the foot this way, I actually start to rotate out like this. And then you see when I'm out like this, so palm by your side, turn the whole shoulder out. That's gonna be a movement of the pectorals here. And you grab the inside of the foot. Now, I pronate the forearm like this, and you see my toes just flick right over my hand here. Okay? That's the action. So it's from here, pronate. But you see my shoulder is back. Hopefully that is very clear. I think that's a pretty good angle. It's a good question. All right. Tadasana. Okay, I'm running out of time, so let's finish the sequence. Come to chair pose. Exhale, bow forward, Uttanasana. Halfway lift on the inhale. Step the left foot back. Bring your hands to your front thigh. Okay, and we do that same action. You're going to take your left hand back by retracting your scapula and grab for your foot. Bring the chest forward, but try to leave your shoulder more or less behind. So don't bring your shoulder forward with it. Keep your shoulder back. Now, you see my palm, just like I showed you a moment ago, the bicep is rotated out, and most of you won't be able to get your foot there, but if you just go over, and don't do this action, don't make this mistake. Like, oh, my hand is facing out. That's just turning the arm all the way in. Keep it out. This is for the stretch of the pectorals. When you turn in, you'll shorten the pectorals. We're trying to lengthen them today. Press the rib cage forward. Now you can bend the elbow again, just like you just saw me do close up there. You can take the foot towards the outer hip here. Not too far out. You want to keep it close into the hip. Okay, but not to the center here. Just right outside the buttocks there. Okay, and my shoulder, I always think of having like a hanger underneath my shoulders, lifting me up and pulling me back. And then I move the chest forward. Now what you could do is try to kick your foot gently back into your hand, creating that facilitated stretch for the quads here. Press the ribs forward. Lift the heart up like a back bend. Press the left rib cage forward in particular. Left shoulder back. Okay, and release. We'll step forward, step the right foot back. Same idea. Reach for the foot, bring it around, thigh stretch, and press the right ribs forward, and try not to let the right shoulder sneak forward on you. Pull it up and back. You can gently press the foot back into the hand, activating the quads. Okay, and release. Step forward, half lift. Press the backs of the legs apart so your sit bones lift, your arch of the low back starts to form, and then bow. Do another couple of breaths. One more. Okay, hands to the hips, rise. all the way up to stand. And for this, you might want to use a wall. That would be totally warranted, because we're going to just do dancer pose, not Trikonasana. Really focusing on this shoulder action of retraction. Okay, and then the secondary action that we worked on a little bit is kicking the foot back into the hand is going to really help. So bend your left, well, maybe we just start with the shoulders like this, okay? Rotate your left palm outward like this, and then try to move it back behind you. Okay, so again, I'll say it again, from Tadasana, rotate the palm out. It shouldn't go like this. This is called internal rotation. We'll go over that another day, but we're just turning the palm out, external rotation more or less. Then reaching the hand back without changing the rotation, and then trying to grab the foot. For me, it just doesn't happen unless I turn my chest a little bit towards the foot like this, and then I reach down for it. You could grab a strap as well. I want to try to keep my shoulder back behind me like we did at the wall, but turn my chest, my left ribs forward and away from it. You see how the chest muscles here are really elongated, so I didn't bring the shoulder forward with me. I left the shoulder back where it was, and then I lengthened by pressing my left ribs, left heart forward, okay? You can bend the standing leg. You can put your right hand on the wall if you'd like, or even on the wall to the side even works, and you just press your chest forward. Eventually, you can take your right hand to your thigh and pull or peel your left shoulder back as you start to kick your left foot back and up behind you. So kick the left foot back and up behind you. Optionally, right hand on the wall or in front. Some of you prefer to be upright, more like this. Some of you will tip more at the pelvis, like so. Okay, coming out of it, I bend my standing knee and I release with control. We don't have to stay there forever. We're really just trying to see if you can work the shoulder into retraction today. I'm really mostly concerned with the action, the biomechanics, that you've got that down. Over time, you can build strength. Hi, sometimes I feel my trapezius super engaged and tense when I do this movement. Isn't that great? I should have told you that one of the muscles that creates retraction of the scapula is the trapezius. So you should really actually, if you're doing it right, you should be activating your trapezius muscles. The problem that most people face is their trapezius muscles are hyperactive but weak, and as a result, it feels uncomfortable. The only way to make that muscle more supple is to strengthen it and then lengthen it. Okay, the last practice we did a lot of lengthening of it. This practice we're strengthening it. So you do want to be strengthening both the rhomboids and the trapezius muscles. And what happens for most people is there's a lot of bunched up fascia there, and a lot of this movement will start to break up that fascia. But you do want that the trapezius engaged, especially the middle fibers and the upper fibers of the trapezius in this case, okay? So instead of thinking that's a bad thing, embrace that as, wow, you're doing it properly. Now, most people aren't used to activating these muscles on purpose. In other words, people have an association with what a good muscle activation and a bad muscle activation is. Great if I activate my abs, bad if I activate my shoulders. Not true. Every muscle should be able to activate and release. And right now what we're doing is learning how to activate. And the more you learn how to activate a muscle, the better you'll be able to release it. When it's just unconscious or subconscious activation, then chances are that muscle will stay active. But if you can find it, meaning neurologically you can connect to that muscle and make it activate on purpose, then you could also ask it to deactivate. And that is one of the markers of a healthy muscle. All right, second side. So you take your right hand, rotate right collarbone wide, okay? Right arm rotates out, shoulder blade retracts. Press your chest forward, shoulder back, bend and reach for the foot. Okay, and then we want to move the rib cage and pectorals, or at least the chest, away from the shoulder. So we keep the shoulder back and press the right ribs forward. I like to do a standing, left knee standing, standing knee bent for a little more stability to start. And you can see my left shoulder also is pulled back. Now, kick your foot back into your hand. Press the right ribs forward. Optionally, left hand on the thigh as you kick back will give you a little bit more activation. Some of you like to be lifted more, that's fine. Or you can reach the arm in front. Kicking the foot back and allowing the right shoulder blade to retract to move towards the spine. Bending the standing leg, coming on out with control. All right, so after all that movement of retraction, it is nice now to do, for many of us, the opposite action of protraction. So you can do eagle arms here and move the shoulder blades away from one another. Take note which arms in front, and just kind of pull the shoulders gently downward and forward to stretch the rhomboids, stretch the trapezius muscles, stretch the rear deltoids. It's a great cool down for the shoulders after that pose. Okay, release the arms. Okay, other side, whichever one was on bottom, switch it up. Again, shoulders down a little bit. Shoulders protract a lot of it. So we'll stretch all the muscles that we just engaged in the upper body. Okay, and release. Okay, so today let's come lie on your back, and to prepare for Shavasana, do a gentle neck stretch. So first, have your feet on the ground, knees bent, and you can watch me first. And you just turn your head to the right, but instead of letting your face just kind of fall to the right, you're gonna actually move your head back towards your left shoulder first, and you'll get more range of motion. And then you'll just let yourself settle in there. Okay, I'll show you another camera angle. You could use your hand if you like to just gently move the skin of your ear back as well. That should give you a little more neck range of motion. If you feel anything painful, then of course back off, don't go as far. You can have your arms like so, they can be overhead. This works nicely as well. Come back to the center, and we're going to switch sides.
Use your hands to help your head come to the center. If you need just a gentle counter twist for a moment. And then any variation of Shavasana that you like. You could keep with the theme by taking your arms more in like a cactus shape overhead if you'd like. And knees knocked in like constructive rest, or you can take this traditional Shavasana, really entirely up to you. And you're gonna probably feel, some of you are gonna feel like your heart's beating pretty fast since you just did back bends. Don't try to fight that, just kind of listen into the movement of your heart. And try to follow the movement of blood throughout your system as it pumps. As you sense the rhythm of your heartbeat and you follow the pulse of it, we're reminded as we observe, this is very much the dance between revelation and concealment right in our heart, right inside of our chest. The heart contracts inward in order to expand back outward. And back inward, and back outward, again and again. This is present within us and all around us. Revelation, anugraha, is not something that is done, but rather something that is observed. And then as we observe it, we see it as the truth around us and within us. It helps us to be more free in that we're not so attached to the highs and lows, but rather we recognize them as all necessary elements of living life. Come back to the rhythm of your breath. And your heartbeat.
As you deepen your breath, you can begin to awaken fingers and toes. Stretch the arms. Roll to your side. And come up to a seated position. And place the palms together in honor of this body. With gratitude for this opportunity that we have with one another to explore and to reveal the unknown about ourselves. We're grateful for this yoga practice that gives us this space. And I'm grateful for all of you that have stepped into this immersion with the curiosity and the willingness to learn. Thank you for giving me a space to share. Namaste. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the practice today. For those of you that were in the chat, I appreciate it. Thank you, Rosario. Nice to have you here. Sabui, welcome and thank you for being here. Emma, thank you so very much. DT, thank you so very much for coming. Afa, Lynn,